Welcome to the Author Showcase Meetup Club here at the Roots Room. And today we have a number of people that are going to be talking about some books. Sit or stand, whichever you prefer.
I'll stand.
Okay.
My name is Marcia Knudsen. I am a social worker for a number of years. Currently hoping to get paid to do that again. I've had both the blessing and the bane of working with some wonderful small not-for-profits and having their bottom lines affect my livelihood. So I grew up an only child, and books were clearly my best friend. And one of the things that I remember about my parents is that if I ever asked for a book, the answer was always yes. As a social worker, I've learned and been taught many, many, many things. One of them that I think is the richest that I hold on to is that you can only live your own life. You can't live anybody else's. I am better at dealing with my own life when I'm involved in a book that reminds me of how many other kinds of lives are being lived and how many other lives are being challenged by things that are different than mine, but challenged nonetheless. Another preference of mine in choosing the books I read is to invest in debut novels. And the last one I finished is entitled House Girl by Tara Conklin. It's about slave reparations. And as with the formula of so many novels, it starts out with two threads, and then you're going, okay, how long before I figure out how these threads merge? And so this one also has two threads. It starts with a slave in the 1850s in Virginia named Josephine, who also happens to be an artist. She fixes Mrs. drawings and adds the cheeks and the subtlety and the light to her pictures. She is the house girl for Mrs. And then there is Lena, short for Carolina, who is a very up-and-coming New York young attorney. And she's putting in 80-plus hours a week, and she just finishes this 100-and-some page brief, only to have her boss toss it aside because they just settled out of court. And she's frustrated. But then he says he's got a new project for her. One of their hottest clients is funding a class action lawsuit on slave reparations. And it's about the way in which, as we document suffering, as she does, she finds that she's also getting in touch with her own suffering and her own history and her own life that she thought was one way. And I won't tell you the thing, but she discovers it to have been a very different sort. And she finds and traces down an ancestor of Josephine. And in the story, what we learn about are all kinds of things that I had never learned that much about in school or in other reading. One was the Underground Railroad. One was the slave catching trade of people who would capture escaping slaves and resell them on the market. And just the ability to tolerate pain and dismissiveness. And so it was one of those stories where I was learning as I was reading, and that's always something that feels like frosting on the cake as well. So I would encourage that for any of you. Don't be put away or put off by what seems like gee, I can think of things I'd rather do than read about slaves getting tortured. Because what it does, kind of in keeping with what you were talking about, Arlene, is finding those exiles and naming them, naming the beasts, and claiming them in the name of people who have survived, and claiming them as your own and moving on. House Girl, Tara Conklin.